In the history of humanity, there are many unanswered questions, and one of them is Heroes of Might and Magic 2 an unbalanced game? I am Saviour, and welcome to the channel. And in this video, I will try to answer that question by analyzing every aspect of the game. In the top info cards, I'm leaving you a playlist with lots of amazing tips for the game. Heroes 2 is a fantastic game for its art design, soundtrack, and gameplay, but it has one small problem: unbalanced. Is there really an unbalance between the factions? I think the main problem here is the units. Factions like Warlock and Wizard have their strongest units, Black Dragons and Titans, respectively. Their stats are very high compared to the strongest units of the Knight and Barbarian factions. Furthermore, if we combine this with powerful spells like Armageddon and combine it with the spell immunity of Black Dragons, we have a very difficult combination to overcome, especially for Knight and Barbarian factions. So, we already have the main reasons for the unbalanced. Now, let's compare it with other games and how they fix this problem. Heroes of Might and Magic 3, considered by many to be the best game in the entire saga. It's a game that's so good. And why is it so good? Quite simply, it improved all the mechanics and added new ones, resulting in a nearly perfect game. New factions, more creatures, better heroes, specializations, and much more, resulting in a more complete game. But on an artistic level, I prefer Heroes 2. Factions like Stronghold and Castle, the equivalents of Barbarian and Knight, received powerful level 7 units like Ancient Behemoth and Archangel, both with brutal stats and abilities. So, in Heroes 3, there's not much difference between unit power levels. Another factor is the introduction of hero classes. Each faction now has heroes aligned with might and magic, which helps increase the balance between the different factions. But now I want to make a comparison with another of my favorite games, Magic the Gathering. It's a collectible card game released in 1993, 2 years before Heroes of Might and Magic, a strategic quest. In this game, you represent a wizard, and your cards represent creatures, spells, lands, etc. These cards, usually 60, form your deck to face another wizard. And you will tell me, all very nice, Saviour, but how does this relate to the unbalance in Heroes 2? A lot. I think the Heroes saga borrowed some elements from MTG. For example, what would you say if spells like Lightning Bolt, Shine Lightning, Meteor Shower, and Armageddon came out earlier in MTG? These are just a few elements. Well, the most important thing is this. MTG has 5 colors, each with its own creatures and spells, the equivalent of the Heroes 2 factions. And each color or combination of them forms decks with a play style: aggro, mid-range, or control. These play styles usually follow the following rule: aggro decks beat control decks beat mid-range decks, and mid-range decks beat aggro decks. It's kind of like the hand game: rock, paper, and scissors. Now let's put the 6 factions of Heroes 2 into the table. Does that make sense? Of course, this is more complex in Heroes 2, but we will go into more detail in the final verdict. There's also the big difference that in Heroes 2, we rarely concede a game. It usually goes all the way to the end. On the other hand, in MTG, players with aggro decks, when they see they can't win the game quickly, very kindly concede the game. By the way, have you played MTG or its digital version MTG Arena? If so, let me know in the comment box. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate leaving a like and subscribing. Then I can continue creating content for the Heroes saga. Now we have how Heroes 3 and MTG have addressed the unbalanced issue. One by better balancing unit power and the other by giving decks advantages and disadvantages based on match length. So, how did Heroes 2 try to combat the potential unbalanced? I think it was with the heroes. When a hero levels up, they also gain a point in attack, defense, spell power, or knowledge. While all of these primary skills are important, in the early and the mid-game, attack and defense give you a significant advantage in combat, leading to easier victories and, consequently, an economic advantage. Let's look at the following table taken from the Heroes 2 manual itself. It shows how Knight and Barbarian faction heroes have a significant chance of increasing their attack and defense compared to the rest of the factions, especially up to level 9. At later levels, this evens out, but Knight and Barbarian faction heroes remain more powerful in combat stats. Isn't this enough to say that these two factions have the most powerful heroes? Maybe this isn't enough, but let's look at the secondary skills. A while back, I made a tier list of secondary skills. I will leave a pinned comment with a link to the video. In it, I mentioned that the best skills are logistic, diplomacy, and wisdom. We can add pathfinding in early and mid-game. Which heroes have the highest chances of learning these secondary skills? Surprise! Knight and Barbarian. Knight is the faction with the highest chance of learning diplomacy, and both are the factions with the highest chance of learning logistic. In my opinion, the best secondary skill. They have fewer chances of learning wisdom, but this skill is better in the late game. So, for me, the best heroes are from the Knight and Barbarian factions. I think this is enough to say that Knight and Barbarians have the best heroes in the game. So the developers tried to balance the game by giving the best heroes to the factions weaker in creatures. But there was a problem. More experienced players use barbarian heroes, for example, in their warlock army. This combines the best heroes with the best faction. This is corrected in Heroes 3, with hero classes and specialties. For example, Kilgore, because of his specialty, was a waste to use as the main hero of another faction. After all this review, my final thoughts are that there are three factors that influence that unbalanced. Map size. On large or extra large maps, the unbalance is greater, as factions like wizards and warlocks have time to build their cities and obtain level 6 units. On small or medium-sized maps, weaker factions have an advantage in quickly defeating the enemy. Difficulty level. At the hardest levels, such as impossible, you start with 0 resources. This reduces the unbalanced, as factions with better heroes are better at obtaining resources more easily and quickly. Conversely, at easy, this advantage disappears, as all factions have sufficient resources to develop their cities. Finally, the player experience. Players with more hours of play know tips or ways to deal with units as strong as Black Dragons. On the other hand, new players often feel at first that the difference in unit power is unfair. We all feel that way. In short, there is a unit unbalanced, but this in no way makes it unplayable. There are always ways to win, even playing with the seemingly weaker faction, like the Knights. Heroes 2 is an incredible game, and highly recommended in 2025. Well, if you think differently than me, leave your opinion in the comments section so we can discuss it. And if you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Goodbye.